everyone, and welcome. We are back with Cars Casually, and we have the floating heads of Nix and Den. Hello, everyone. And then we have Paulo and Chris and me, Carl. And today we're going to talk about economy cars. And economy cars is economy vehicles, and that's kind of different from the way it used to be. It used to be that we'd be looking at the basic models of things like the cars from Toyota, Mitsubishi, and so on. And that's not the same anymore. We have well-priced cars from new manufacturers and new countries that are very much worth your time to look at and decide if they're for you or not. Sometimes people will go for the tried and tested Toyotas and Mitsubishis and so on. Sometimes they will try and see, can I work with a Geely? And so on. So we're going to do that now. And today we are going to start off with Paolo explaining to us what exactly we are talking about. So, Paolo.
Yeah. So first of all, like if you compare the quote unquote affordable cars nowadays compared to the 90s, when you would have the Civics and the Corollas that would serve as like the entry models of these, popular Japanese brands. But nowadays, especially in the 2000s, they introduced models like the City, the Vios, which, proved to be very popular in our market. So, and recently in the past year, such models were updated. Some were just facelifts, and some were released with all new models. So, and these are the City Vios and the Mirage G4, and the Mirage G4 was just released just last August. So we thought that it was a good time to talk about the cars and how are they as affordable cars, or are there better options now? First up is the Honda City and the City hatchback. So this was released, I think,
1 year apart.
uh,
So if
one
this,
year ago.
yeah, so if the Honda City was launched, the Honda City hatchback was launched a few months ago. Maybe I think like
Mhm.
4 or 5 months ago. The Honda City was launched a year ago. There was like a year gap between the two.
Yes, and I believe that the Vios was launched earlier this year. Uh, and as we said, the Mirage G for last month. So we think that these are the top three uh, models that people look at when you think of affordable cars. Of course, there are cheaper cars like the Brio, the Wigo, but this is like the signature models when you think of like
Yeah.
affordable sedans.
Yeah. The way
So
I'll say it is they're big enough to like put a lot more people than the mini compacts, but small enough to be a considerable size difference between a compact. That's the magic of the subcompact class.
yes, and if you compare it to just 10 years ago, they have a lot more toys inside. So some of these cars like the City, if you choose that the top trim RS, which would put you up right above 1.1 million, you get like leather touches on the interior, like piano black finishes. You have like the nicer infotainment systems, so they don't come as bare boned as they used to be.
Yeah. But so you want us to choose our favorites or like take our
Yeah,
oh, this is a tough
like
one. No, but okay. Like for the viewers out there, there's been a growing trend and I'm happy about it na the infotainment system. If before you wanted to get the nice infotainment system, you had to buy top of the line. Now with the Honda City, the Vios and the Mirage G4, you can get any of the trims and you will have the same infotainment system of Android Auto and Apple CarPlay.
Does that
That's the
mean that
nice
there's
thing
not an
about it.
upgrade? Does that mean that there's not an
No,
upgrade if you get the top of the line?
no, okay. So like what Paolo was saying, if you do get top of the line, it's more on the aesthetics, the touches, which there's some people who are particular with that. But now at least as a buyer, if you're just looking for like a car, like the essentials, you don't feel shortchanged anymore.
Okay.
It's not as much of a, unlike before. It's like, oh, I have to compromise. I want it cheaper. I have to give up those things. Now it feels less of a compromise when you buy these kinds of cars nowadays. It's more of like when you buy them now, it's more of preference.
Okay, so you're getting more at the entry level prices, but that's not something that changes when you go and pay for the higher models. Is that what you're saying?
Parang
Not
when you pay for
anymore.
the high, yeah, not anymore.
Okay.
It used to be that way where interiors would be drastically different from one variant to the other of the same model. But nowadays, the differentiators are mostly maybe your wheels, your wheel size, like Nick said, accents, body kit, maybe a different bumper,
Yeah,
maybe better lights, HIDs instead of halogens, sunroof. Those are usually the things that these are the extras that you pay for now, and not so much the infotainment system because manufacturers are starting to put pretty good infotainment systems even on their base model
yeah.
cars.
I think they're
That's
seeing the
particularly
demand.
that's particularly true with the Mirage G4. Like even the base GLX manual has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. So
Yeah,
they understand that such features are important, to capture consumers. Uh, and it's nice to see, infotainment features such as that like become standard even in entry level variants.
yeah.
So what would you miss? Um,
Well, well, it when it comes to the city and the Vios, they do have uh, respectable safety features. So they come standard with ABS. They have a good collection of airbags. But with the Mirage G4, it's only the GLS, the top of the line variant, that gets ABS.
really?
So
Okay.
I was a bit surprised to see that they didn't include uh, ABS even for the entry model variants of the Mirage, because I believe that's pretty standard nowadays, especially considering that
Yeah,
the rivals in the segment already have it.
yeah, that's a bit of a
So
surprise.
that's a bit of a surprise. Although, like if you're talking about exterior details, if you look at the Grab cars or like TNVS of the Mirage, the entry level variants would have plastic covers on the wheels, but now it's all alloy standard. So
Okay.
they did add some like standard features that they didn't have in the previous model. But I think the safety in terms of safety package, that was a bit of a miss. I mean, there's no sugarcoating that because like
Yeah.
safety is like one of the priorities nowadays, even for
Yeah. Actually,
lower
I'm
model
surprised
segment.
about the ABS because there has been a growing trend of putting ABS everywhere. So I'm a bit surprised that the Mirage G4 has no ABS.
Well, I guess what it comes down to is there are people who still, because they wouldn't be doing it if there wasn't a market, right? As Chris
True.
says, and we famously quote, no bad cars, only inappropriate pricing. So it
Appropriate
might
prices.
well be
Yeah.
that there are people who still want or do not. I mean, heck, there are people who don't wear masks now, right? So
Yeah.
what am I going to say? There are people who don't think that ABS is a key point,
Yeah.
and we
I'm sure
disagree
they did their
completely.
study.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, so going
I
back to inexpensive
remember.
cars.
Yeah,
So right
yeah.
now, what would your choice be? If you had a budget of
Ooh.
Paulo, choose a
The
budget and
million.
make us all give you answers.
Okay, let's stop it at 1 million.
So nothing above one. Nothing above
We could
one.
say 1.1 million because these
Okay,
models
1.1.
they do have variants that reach 1.1 million at the most.
Oh, kasi, that's a good
Wait, are we
one.
talking about compact cars?
Anything,
Not really.
Subcompact.
basically
Or like
So
anything, because
cars in
we're
general.
yeah, anything. Because
Oh,
I mean, it's not fair to differentiate a vehicle type. Um,
okay. Yeah.
I
Chris does
mean,
have a point. If like you ask 5 years ago for a car under million or kahit 1.1 million, 5 years ago, good luck in putting any SUV there.
yeah, that's
But
true.
now, but now, oh my god, like we have a list here. Actually, we have a list of like SUVs that you can put under 1.1. So
Yeah,
times are good now. Times are good.
there's a
I
lot
mean
of
So
these are
there
I
are a
don't
lot
know
of
if anyone would agree
variations,
with
a lot of
times are good
choices.
right now, but
I'm sorry. I mean, to buy a car, to buy a car. But yeah.
now, yes. Right now, actually, what's interesting is that in the Philippines, we still have deals going, whereas in a lot of countries, there aren't. They're fighting. We have chip shortages. We have logistical shipping issues. We have right now they just announced they oddly announced this. They announced that Toyota and GM would be sharing parts, but then they said that was only within the US, so it's a little confusing. So people who do make announcements really should pay more attention to what they're saying. But anyway, what
Yeah.
they said was that GM and Toyota will be sharing a fair number of parts for their hybrids and electrics within the US. That was not, and that was given by a very reliable news source, and they incorrectly put their headline in. But anyway, the point of it is that all these things are happening. Plants are being not shut down but slowed down. So eventually, we're going to feel something.
Yeah, it's
Nix was also
inevitable.
saying there are issues right now where we're looking at increases in prices, but to be honest, we always look at increases in prices.
Yeah, no, but now
So
that you mentioned the chip shortage, just the TLDR of that one. So, manu- chip manufacturers are losing raw material. So, it's cascading. Raw materials becoming more expensive, which makes chip manufacturing more expensive, which will make cars more expensive. So, from
And you
there.
know what's the importance of these chips? Because almost all cars nowadays require like a computer, and those chips are important for them.
Could be a reason about the ABS. The parang removing the ABS. I don't know. Okay, but going back to the 1.1 million peso, now we have SUV. We actually have SUV options.
Mhm.
Uh, if okay.
Crossover, not SUV.
Yeah,
Crossovers,
sorry,
to be more
crossovers,
specific.
crossover. Okay, but
are there
okay.
any
So
ladder
going
based
back.
under a million?
Oh,
Ladder-based
I,
No,
SUVs?
No, I
not
no.
yet,
wish.
yet, yet. I don't know in the
I think
future.
Isuzu came the closest with the MUX. They had like a 1.3 million MUX,
And
which
yet,
was
that's
really
interesting when
bare
you think about
bones.
it. That's a very bare bones structure.
Yeah, but that was one of
Uh,
It's
their
very
best sellers
Isuzu.
as well. It had their
Sold a lot.
1.9 liter and the
Yeah.
2-liter engine, the
why
1.9
are
liter
there? What
engine.
about pickup trucks? Are pickup trucks in that range? Are there any pickup trucks now in that
Uh,
range?
Yeah, you'll
Now
find.
the
Yeah,
D-Max,
fleet
the
pickup.
you'll
oh,
find big, but I mean they're like we're talking about single cab, maybe.
oh,
Just really as meant to be fleet vehicles,
So no
kind
dual
of.
cab commuter type trucks in the
No,
1 million
let
range.
parang I remember like a 1 million peso 4x2. Let me check out like that.
Remember when we tried those little tiny Tatas that were so surprisingly good?
Oh yeah. Oh, those were
Wow.
like for a workhorse, they were really good. 4 by
I
2
know.
parang we were do parang
Manual.
yeah, ay nako, that was good stuff. Good
That
times,
was
good
fun.
time.
Okay, anyway, getting
Great
back to
time.
it. Sorry, I interrupted you guys.
No, no.
We're talking
Okay,
about
here,
Okay,
guys.
crossovers.
Quick.
go
So you
next.
can get a four. No, you can get a 4x4 for 1.148 million. A manual Hilux fleet with the 2.4-liter engine. Not and
Okay.
and below a million, you can get the 4x2 version of that. Interestingly,
yeah, but those are fleet vehicles, which means you
yeah.
compromise on a lot of things.
Oh,
Yeah.
for
Yes.
sure.
Right. All right. So what
Okay,
about for the crossovers, as Chris was saying?
going back. So if you look at cars like the Vios and the City, a lot of their variants would go around 900,000, like the mid variants. But there are crossovers that start around 700,000 pesos, 800,000 pesos, and these are the Kia Stonic, Cherry Tiggo 2, MGZS. So the question that always bothers me is that would you go for a mid variant or upper tier Vios or City, or would you go for a crossover, with a trunk space a bit higher on the ground, like the MGZS, Kia Stonic, or Cherry Tiggo 2? In terms of like interior amenities like infotainment system, they're mostly the same. They have touchscreen, Bluetooth. Some would have Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, but it's more of like just the general structure of the car of being a sedan and a crossover. And of course, the reputation, like the trusted branding of a Toyota, Honda, and Mitsubishi, and a going brand like Cherry, MG, and maybe not really Kia, but yeah, you have a lot more options nowadays.
Okay. Well, let's. The one thing that gets to me sometimes is that we assume that the crossovers will have more space. Can you give two examples of, let's say, what would your choice be for a sedan versus a crossover, and would you actually get that much more space in the back, much
Okay.
more usable space?
Good question.
Yeah.
It's a
Okay.
good question.
So no. So a perfect example for that scenario. Well, okay, not exactly a crossover, but the body types just similar. Walang lang right height. Since we're talking about interior space, it's the Honda City. When it comes to like parang room, like interior room and trunk space, the Honda City sedan has more. It's just that because the hatchback you combine the trunk space and the passenger space. If you're looking at overall volume, the hatchback has more. But if you're looking on usable space to protect, na you can protect, the city has more. It's longer, eh.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
It
now
always
compare
boils
that.
down to versatility.
Yeah, compare
yeah.
that to an SUV. I mean, choose an SUV and compare, or a compact
Okay.
SUV, or a compact crossover.
You could like go Kia
Uh
Stonic. It's pretty
yeah.
small.
I think like in terms of like you parang use versatility, the Stonic will have more than let's say the Vios. But if you take like the trunk space of the Vios versus the Stonic, the Vios has a lot of more trunk space. So
That's
don't
for
be
sure. I
fooled.
mean,
Yeah, don't be fooled na oh crossover has more space. No, crossover means you have more versatility on the space that you're given.
and I think it's just the novelty of having a crossover. I mean, it's a huge topic nowadays. People want a crossover, and it doesn't necessarily mean that the brands give a bigger car, because
Yeah.
as we've seen, the Vios and the City offer a lot more space in the trunk and the rear passengers than a crossover like like the Stonic does. So you really have to look into it in terms. You have to look into the technical details. Look at the car, ride the passengers, like the rear passenger seat. In terms of the front passenger seat and the driver's seat, you won't feel much of a difference. It's really in the rear passenger seats,
Yeah.
because
Well,
in these smaller crossovers, like the second row and the cargo space sometimes may feel cramped. But in the case of, for example, the MGZS, which is a bit bigger than the Stonic, uh, it does feel more like a crossover
the
in terms
MGZS
of
over the
like,
Stonic.
yes, in terms of
Yeah.
space.
The
Okay.
ZS is pretty big, ah. Chris, that's the one you brought.
Mm.
Like, what I remember, like this is 2018, I think. The you brought the ZS, the
Okay.
black one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it that was a considerable amount of space for a car under a million.
No,
I remember
that
that.
was the ZS was very impressive when it launched. It was around
Yeah.
800,000,
Yeah. Well, that
Yeah,
was
and
it.
the
Yes,
space
So,
eight.
was
which was crazy for. I mean, it was a crazy price for what you got because you got leather seats, you got a touchscreen. I mean,
Mhm.
and the
all
space, the
these
sheer volume.
premium features for 800 plus thousand, which is, I mean, you don't even see that anymore.
yeah, but no,
Um,
that was 4 years ago, 3 years ago.
yeah,
So we're not talking about the current one. Just
yeah.
just to make sure people don't freak out. Like I get that for 800. No. But yeah,
It might be a bit different now.
yeah, yeah. No, but I
Well, actually, right now it's still. Well, I'm looking at the
Still the
price.
same.
It's 868 for the
That's
base
still
model
wow,
automatic.
okay.
wow.
868, which is still a
It's the
great
same.
value.
Has it been? Is it the same car? Has it been
Yeah, yeah.
refreshed? Has it been
Yes.
updated?
No, hasn't been.
No,
It's
no,
the
it's the
same
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 car.
thing.
car.
Yeah.
So having that
Okay, so
said, what would you get? Like, would you get like the typical subcompact sedan, or would you go for something like that?
Um,
correct me if I'm wrong. That's like a mid-variant Vios, right? At that
Yeah.
price.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What would
What are
you
your
Well,
actually?
default? What are your defaults? What are your no-brainer answers?
Okay. If like parang if I'm allowed to go like 1.1 million, my default would be going to the Honda City hatchback. I really am a fan of the
Yeah, me too.
ULTR seats. Like
Yeah, that's kind of a you're not gonna
yeah. But
get
okay, but
you're not gonna
if I'm
lose.
but there are a lot of people who will like parang when asking for a budget car and like their cutoff point is the 1 million mark. So parang that becomes out of the choice that that doesn't become a choice anymore. So what I would it's a hard toss up between the Vios G na 1.3 the X-Men the XE wait
XE.
the XE because that one if I'm not mistaken parang when I was like parang asking about the car, let me get to it. The only difference is the airbags between the where are you? The
Yeah, because the Vios
XLE and the E.
three
Yeah.
three airbag and seven airbag variants.
Yeah. So the difference between the XLE and the E is like the top of the line of the 1.3 is like parang 3 airbags versus 7 airbags. So if I'm looking at the Vios, I'll get the XLE. But what's nice is if I'm looking at the Mirage, parang the mid variant I'd actually get also between the two. If I'm under a
At
million.
899,000,
Yeah.
I think.
Uh-uh.
You know,
Oh,
my
so
my
you'll get the Mirage over the
It's a
ZS?
toss up. It's like parang for the viewers out there, you cannot go wrong with either. But I find there's more room on the Mirage G4. But I
Mm,
find that
yeah,
there's more like parang the Vios feels mechanically sound to drive. So like take your pick from there. If you're looking for more
yeah, I get
space,
you.
get the Mirage G4. But if you're looking for like a more personal car, then you'll parang probably be looking at the Vios and specifically the 1.3 XLE.
well, there's one thing to remember, and we kept going back, and you guys kept saying this, and that's everybody's looking at crossovers, right? Um, you got to understand that when everyone looks at something, that means the demand is high. That means that they will charge more money for them. And we have very concrete examples given to us by the brands of how they price their vehicles that much higher because they know people are gonna uh, pay for that. And some of us here have been, we follow that. We pick up a car that's just that good with less stuff because we want it. And so when people like the look of the crossovers and the SUVs, they're just able to charge a bit more. So you got to remember that as well. You might be getting more value with something that's not as trendy.
Which is
Yeah,
why I
actually.
think that what MG did was really an exception. They did it
Oh
to
yeah,
they did it to disrupt
Yeah, they
and
did,
they
no
prices.
question.
they
Yeah,
Well,
have
they
and
had
it
they had
they
to
worked.
get
have.
into the market. They had
Yeah,
to get into the market. And let's also remember that the MG Group globally, they can pull cars from any number of companies and badge them any way they want,
It's also
basically.
true.
And so it we have to be much more discerning nowadays of where these cars are coming from, and whether we're not saying that they're bad. We're just saying that just understand that, because what we think of it's like what the U.S. did many years back, and just kind of badge engineering for different countries. And we had Fords that
Yeah.
were actually Mazdas, and so on,
Yeah.
which was not a bad thing in any way, as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, we gotta look at those things. And again, and here's a concrete example. A friend of ours ended up picking up a Geely based on what we said, even though he started with a Honda CRV, and he
Yeah.
was he was waitlisted and he put down his deposit, and he said he was just going by numbers. And I said, you can't go by numbers anymore. You can't make
That's true.
these assumptions. I mean, the
It
numbers are great and you will need them, but you got to go and check the car. And he figured he's like, and he's one of those guys that's blocked himself away from people and not gone out. And he went out of his way, and he's extremely happy that he got into the Cool Ray. And it's funny because he said numbers wise, he was like, no, the Cool Ray is just too small for us. It's not as whatever by the numbers. He wanted the mid range Geely. The mid range Geely is the
the
Okavango, right?
Ascara
Ascar, no.
the
Okay, he was looking at the Okavango, but anyway.
okay,
Um,
okay, sorry.
and I said, okay, but I like
Now
I like the Cool Ray because of this. And the result was they got the Cool Ray because they
and
found it. Yeah,
how is he with the space right now?
he's fine. No,
See exactly. Like,
because you get, yeah, you tend to think these things, but in reality, they don't work. It's like, okay, if you guys saw like my Instagram post recently, I put in the wagon 4 wheels, 2 crates, Lego pieces, and bags, and I'm like, this is why we want wagons. This is why that flatbed
We're back to this.
works,
no,
right? Yes, we're back to that. No,
no,
I'm
but
feeling deja vu actually with this entire broadcast. Like
yeah, what the
I
heck?
feel like This all sounds vaguely familiar. Yeah.
It does. It does.
No,
No,
but
but okay.
diba?
There's one thing that people didn't realize when SUVs first came out. You had a lift over into the trunk, right?
Yeah,
And that was just very bad for people.
yeah.
So they now
But
make
but
them.
that's the parang versatility. Like when you get a car
Yeah,
that has versatility, like you can be more imaginative with the cargo space.
yeah. So but it really comes down to you got to check it, and you got to think of it not in terms of how cool it is in the showroom, but in terms of okay, when you're carrying your kid, can you carry or like Chris? Okay, can you easily put in a car seat? Can you easily put in all the bags and the strollers you need, or is it going to be hard if your wife is the only one doing it by herself? All these little things. There's nothing wrong with bringing your gear to the showroom and trying it out there, or nowadays having them
Yeah.
send the car to you.
Chris, for
Yeah.
you, at 1 million, what would you personally get? What would be your personal choice?
1 million or 1.1?
Sige, let's go with the 1.1 and then a strict 1 million.
My 1.1 choice would be the same as yours, the Honda City hatchback. I mean, my answer here with the 1 million and below or 1 to 1.5, it always changes. Like every couple
Yeah,
of months, it
Yeah.
always changes,
yeah,
because there's
yeah.
always something new that comes out, and it's always the best one there. At
Yeah,
least for me. For
that's
now,
how
it's the
confidence
Honda
should
City
work.
hatchback at that price range. It's unbeatable.
1.1, yeah.
It feels premium. It's versatile.
Mhm.
And it
Drives
drives well
well.
pa. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can't go wrong with
I
that.
think it's the closest one will get to like a wagon at that price.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
No?
So
Deja
there's
vu.
that. I mean, it's a bit bigger than your typical hatchback nowadays, like mini compacts.
Okay, but
So
now
I'll have the city hatchback too.
but
That's
now
for
that
sure.
we're cutting off our legs na parang 1 million pesos strict, what would you get?
Oh, that's harder. That's harder. Can't I just save the extra
Mm.
100 grand?
Okay,
the
Wait.
Yeah.
no, no, okay.
Let me
Within a
think.
range, what would you? Okay,
Yeah,
I have a question. Where one of our favorites is the Cool Ray. Where's the Cool Ray in pricing?
there's
The
below a
Uh,
Cool Ray
mil.
is
You can
about
get that.
one. No, is it below
You
now?
can get you can get below a
the
mil.
entry
Ah.
variant, the entry variant
No.
is
Oh
right under a
yeah.
million. But
Right.
Yeah,
I think he sacrificed a lot of things,
Yeah.
like
but it's
interior
mechanically good.
bits.
Ako,
But the
I
same,
still would. Let me check.
yeah.
Let me go to our online buyer's guide for that.
Because for
Strength
me,
lagi.
I'd be looking at any number of these things, and they would be the Cool Ray, the City, the G4, the new G4. Yeah, the Vios is a no brainer decision, but I
No
enjoy driving the
brainer
other
for
ones
sure.
more. So
I mean, I can answer
Yeah.
first. Under 1 million, it's down to the City V and the
That's a
entry
good
level
one.
Cool Ray.
Oh, that's
That's
a
right
good
under a
one.
million, 900 something. Those are the two I'm looking at for under a million. Because first of all, I love those cars mechanically, and you don't sacrifice like mechanical bits if you go to the entry level variants. You just sacrifice, I think maybe fog lamps, like interior bits, like leather bits in the interior. But you do get the same infotainment system, especially for the city. Uh, so those are my two choices for under a million.
Wow, a strict
But
under a
of course,
million.
there's still the Vios, But I'm trying to be more adventurous here. So City or Kure.
yeah,
What Chris,
or give me
you.
the
Yeah.
G4. I'd include that.
G4, yeah. You save like 100,000 because that's priced at 899.
Yeah.
Okay, my choice isn't exactly a million. It's 1,008,000. Does that count?
Okay, no, no,
No,
I'll allow
Yeah,
that. I'll allow that.
it's
you
Eight
can
now.
definitely
make
8,000.
Yeah, yeah,
It's
I'll shoulder the eight.
1,008,000 pesos. It's the expander, the Mitsubishi Expander
there. You go.
GLX. That's what I would get.
That's actually a very good choice.
One
That's a
million
very
and
So
smart
eight.
choice.
no, so why the space? I can see that you're really fighting for space.
Well, because I have a kid.
Okay, go on.
I have a kid. I mean, if I didn't have a kid, my answer would be completely different. But you're asking me, right? So, and that
Yeah,
I,
yeah, yeah.
I definitely like you. The space offered by a subcompact will never be sufficient if you have a toddler.
No, the expander is a really good choice, and
Yeah.
that's why we were saying don't just think of cars. You know, um,
Think of the
that's a
value you
great
get out of
choice.
it.
And I've always
And
liked
it's
the
the,
expander. It's
oh yeah,
Yeah.
comfortable. You know, it's practical. I just wish it had a better powertrain. That's the only thing really that is
it's
keeping it
manual,
from being the
no?
best.
The
No,
GLX, the
it's
G,
no. It's a four-speed automatic. It's a four-speed automatic. Um. Oh wait, no, you're right.
that the
You're right.
plus
It's a
the
manual. You're absolutely
the
right.
the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
the, G,
yeah.
the GLX
Okay.
plus
Well, yeah.
88,000. Oh, wala na. Nope, you have to pick another car. Nope, cut off,
No,
cut
no, no.
off.
I don't mind. I don't mind driving a manual. I would. I would.
Wow.
If
No,
my
no,
budget was
yeah,
strict.
yeah. I agree there. I agree. I would also. Because if space is that important to you, I think this is a really good option.
No, I
And
think
look,
it's a
oh,
great
parang
option.
at least you get one more gear pa, diba? So it's probably more efficient.
And the option to seat seven. I mean, where else would you find something like that for
Oh,
for
that's tough.
one M?
1M.
Is it
That's
available
tough.
anywhere, or is that it? That's the only
Uh
option.
yeah, I think it's the only option, right? Like parang
No, that's a great
s-
Uh, I
seven.
think
smart.
okay. If you're talking about seven seaters, I think the Ertiga is
That's
maybe a
true.
bit
You're right.
lower.
You're right.
Oh,
You're right.
yeah,
You know,
You're
some
right.
prefer like a Mitsubishi, and I believe mechanically, the total package,
yeah. That's
the
right.
expander still above the Ertiga.
The Artiga is also a compelling choice, and the
And
top of the
oh,
line Artiga is actually right under 1M, so that might actually make more sense.
let me dial that back. Let me dial
And
that
Yeah,
back.
yeah. It boils down to how much harder is it to service at Suzuki versus Mitsubishi, considering where I live. I mean, it's that's what it's gonna boil down to, really.
For where we
Which
live,
one is
Chris, they're
more
right beside each
convenient?
other.
Yeah.
They're right beside each
I mean,
other.
not me specifically. I mean, someone in my situation, it would boil down to
Yes,
something
correct.
like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, for
matter
sure.
of convenience.
Would your
Like
wife
your
drive a
service
manual?
center.
No, she wouldn't.
Ooh.
She wouldn't.
because because she doesn't know how to, or because it's just too inconvenient to drive.
She knows how. She just won't
Okay,
bother
so it's
with it.
inconvenience, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But yeah, the Ertiga actually makes a lot more sense. That yeah, I
But
I would probably go with the Ertiga. Like knowing now that the top of the line is under 1M and it's automatic compared to the manual of the expander at 1.008. Yeah, it makes a lot more sense.
or a fleet Hilux
I
for
mean,
below a
but
mil. Hmm.
which is why
Oh,
I honestly don't understand why you would have to constrain yourself so strictly to a budget. Usually it was like, oh, my budget's 1M. Like, really? Not 1.015? Strictly
yeah.
1M, you know?
I guess that's
Because
where.
from 990 to 1,015,000, the price difference isn't that much when you think about it. But there are so many cars in that range. Like you add so many more options. If you just add
That
like 20,000 more, 15,000 pesos more, thirty
actually
thousand
that's
pesos
true.
more, you
That's how
have so many.
competitive the scene has been.
Yeah, and you get so many more options available to you.
Yeah, you can just skip that PlayStation 5.
No,
Better
no,
car.
that's yeah, that's true. That's true. For a car that will serve you for the next 3 to 5 years, diba?
Mm.
PS5 will also serve you for the next 5 years.
5 to 10 years.
Okay,
Okay.
so
Yeah.
what is our final call, guys? Did you make your you? Chris made his decision, which is good.
Yeah.
Paula did, Nick did, I did.
Ertiga.
So,
Yeah.
so basically, we all kind of gravitated in one direction with slight flyers. It really comes down to what you want and what you personally need. We do suggest you don't tie yourself to one particular thought. Don't just think sedan, don't just think crossover. It turns out that Chris's thoughts on the expander were extremely good, and then the fact that there's an Antigua in that mix, very good as well. You know, uh, my thoughts for the cost would my thoughts for that cost range would be a hatchback or a small crossover. So it really comes down to that. You got to figure out which one fits you best, and as Chris said, which one's easy to service, right? So
That's so
That's very true.
true.
yeah.
That's
Very
so
important.
true.
So there. Okay. Well, thank you very, very much, everyone. We have had another chat that Chris says has been deja vu like, but what the heck? That's who we are. So thank you very, very much, everyone. This has been Nix in the cloud. This has been Chris. This has been Paulo. This has been me, Carl. This has been Den, who has been surprisingly quiet. Thank you very, very much for joining us. Join us again next time. Bye, everyone.
Bye,
See
everyone.
you guys.